This is out of the New York Times. Trump administration live updates. Oregon officials vent fury as California National Guard heads to Portland. California National Guard troops in Los Angeles in June when the Trump administration deployed them over immigration enforcement protests there. That's what the picture is. So where things stand here. Portland deployment for the 30 people in front that stand out in front of the ICE facility and take munitions so that they have to waste their fucking money. That bloated budget they have that rivals the Department of Defense now. This whole system is bullshit and it's bloated with money. And the people standing out in front of the ICE place in Portland are doing God's work right now. They are actual heroes, taking non-lethal munitions on purpose to make them waste their money. That's all we can do sometimes. That's all we can do. Portland development. Officials in Oregon expressed outrage over the Trump administration's decision to deploy federalized members of the California National Guard to Portland, saying there was no insurrection or threat to national security. On Saturday, a federal court had blocked the deployment of Oregon National Guard, rejecting Trump's arguments that the troops were needed to respond to demonstrations at an Immigration and Customs Enforcement building in Portland. Governor Gavin Newsom of California called the deployment a breathtaking abuse of power. So he's sending 300 federalized members of the California National Guard to Oregon on Saturday night and early Sunday after a federal court had blocked him, and that California would sue over this. The move came less than a day after Judge Karen Immergut of U.S. District Court in Oregon issued a temporary restraining order that prevented Trump administration from mobilizing 200 Oregon troops for a 60-day deployment there. Mr. Trump said, I love that, Mr. Trump, keep doing that. Mr. Trump said that the troops were needed to respond to demonstrations at the Immigration and Customs Enforcement building in Portland, but the judge wrote that the protests were not significantly violent or disruptive, and that she expected a trial court to agree with the state's contention that the president had exceeded his constitutional authority, as he has over and over and over. This isn't about public safety, it's about power, Mr. Newsom said of the California troops in a statement. The commander-in-chief is using the U.S. military as a political weapon against American citizens. We will take this fight to court, but the public cannot stay silent in the face of such reckless and authoritarian conduct by the President of the United States. A White House spokeswoman, Abigail Jackson, said that the president had exercised his lawful authority to protect federal assets and personnel in Portland following violent riots and attacks on law enforcement. That's not happening. There are not violent riots. He's seeing pictures of 2020. And if his staff is showing that man, that befuddled, dementia-riddled man, pictures of Portland in 2020, and he's believing that that's now, keep making videos of downtown Portland. Keep making videos out in front of the ICE detention facility where it shows the 10 people out there. There were people in the streets yesterday that went to that, but they were all neighbors. They were elderly people. Like Stephen Miller said, all the old white people. Yeah, there were a lot of those people at ICE that got tackled and pushed to the fucking ground. Yeah, that's what happened to these just regular peaceful people walking by with signs that they didn't like. They got pepper balls shot at them. Neighbors in the neighborhood. Just bullshit. Referring to Mr. Newsom by a disparaging nickname, she added that the governor should stand on the side of law-abiding citizens. He is. Instead of violent criminals destroying Portland and cities across the country, that's not happening. In Oregon, state and local officials expressed outrage. This action circumvents the court's decision and threatens to inflame a community that has remained peaceful thus far. Mayor Keith Wilson of Portland said, yes, I'm adding my emotion to that statement. Governor Tina Kotek of Oregon said that 101 federalized California National Guard members had already arrived in her state by Sunday morning. There had been no prior notification from the federal government to her administration, she said. The facts haven't changed, she added. There's no need for the military in Oregon. There's no insurrection in Portland. No threat to national security. The president has pushed to deploy the National Guard troops in a number of major U.S. cities because that's what he wants to do, regardless of what's happening in those Democratic cities. We all know by now, because Newsom's been plastering them all over X, the crime statistics for red states are like 150 times worse than any of the blue states. The blue cities, pardon me. It's worse, their crime. So if he really was concerned about crime, he would be sending the National Guard. And those red state governors would be totally accepting the military's help in their own cities. Are they? Are they? Is there one Republican city that he's sending the National Guard to? No. He's sending them to Democratic cities, is what he's doing. He wants to have the military there for the midterms. He wants to intimidate people into not voting. He wants to intimidate people, period. Because he's a paper fucking tiger. And if you have to deploy troops against your own people that you swore to protect, motherfucker, you swore to protect all of us. You're attacking us. He's declared war on the fucking citizenry of America. Sorry, just the Democrats. This is so vile and treasonous. And the only good thing about this is that now all the top generals in the military know that we have a treasonous, insurrectionist motherfucker in the White House. Yeah, and ICE is watching social media. Fuck you, ICE. A federal judge has ruled that those troops were used illegally for domestic law enforcement. That ruling has been stayed pending an appeal, and 300 troops have remained deployed in Southern California. Those were the troops that have been sent to Oregon, Mr. Newsom said. National Guard forces, largely part-time troops who typically work in civilian jobs full-time, are normally controlled by the states, with governors serving as commanders. Troops often are deployed to help after natural disasters or when civil disorder overwhelms local law enforcement authorities, but in some circumstances, federal law allows the president to take control. Not these circumstances. The California troops sent to Oregon overnight were federalized this summer after scattered protests in Los Angeles, in a few block radius, and some surrounding cities against a series of heavily militarized ICE raids. We're not going to stop protesting. Trump administration officials said the deployment of active duty troops into an American city was necessary because state and local sanctuary laws passed to reinforce trust between immigrant communities and the police were limiting the local ability to take part in federal immigration crackdown. Why do you need help? ICE has a bigger budget than the fucking military of most countries. Why do you need help then? Elizabeth Goitin, a senior director at the Brennan Center for Justice at New York University's Law School, said that the California National Guard troops that being sent to Portland were legally part of the federal armed forces. That means the president can send them into any state without that state's consent, as long as the federalization and deployment are otherwise lawful. But, she said, under Judge Immerget's ruling, the deployment is most likely not lawful. The conditions required for federal deployment under Section 12406 of Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the statute under which the president dispatched the National Guard troops, are not present in Portland, the judge found. And while her order was specific to the Oregon National Guard, Ms. Goitin said in an email, its logic equally applies to California National Guard. Duh, of course it does. As a result, she said, a deployment of federalized troops in Portland is unlawful, whether those troops come from California or Oregon or anywhere. The president's repeated depictions of Portland as on fire have diverged from reality, the judge found, citing a month of reports from Portland Police Bureau showing that the size and intensity of the nightly ICE protest has been ebbing in August and September. On Sunday, residents and tourists were largely reveling in a sunny fall morning, playing fetch with their dogs in the neighborhood parks, standing in long lines for brunch, and crowding downtown sidewalks to cheer on runners in the annual city marathon. But the president's decision to focus on Portland has also drawn protesters from outside the city, including right-wing counter-demonstrators, and that has heightened tensions. Of course, over the weekend, federal immigration officers at the city's ICE building escalated their use of force, turning swiftly to tear gas and pepper balls during a Saturday afternoon march to protest the proposed deployment. Yeah, they hurt people. They just don't care, I don't think. Oregon officials said the situation still fell far short of any need for military intervention. State lawyers asked Judge Immert to expand her temporary orders restraining to include the National Guard soldiers from other states. So we'll see what happens. It's unlawful, it's unconstitutional, and it's goddamn anti-American is what it is. It's treasonous. And fuck you, ICE.